Okay, let's unpack this. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you really needed to get people on board with an idea, maybe a project,
Uh-huh.
but you just didn't have, the official title or the power to simply tell them what to do?
Oh, absolutely. Happens all the time.
Yeah, maybe you're leading something new, trying to get colleagues to collaborate, or honestly, even just navigating a tricky family decision.
Mm-hmm.
Building influence without that formal authority, it's, well, it's a challenge that's relevant to pretty much anyone, wouldn't you say?
It's so true. And we often fixate on, the hard skills or the official positions.
Right.
But what's truly fascinating is that genuine effectiveness, especially in complex places like modern teams or even family units, it often hinges on those soft skills.
Soft skills. You
Yeah.
mean like communication, empathy?
Exactly. Those interpersonal abilities, communication, empathy, influence, they're less about technical stuff and more about, well, navigating human relationships effectively. It's not just what you know. It's really about how you connect, how you understand, and how you inspire people.
And today, we're diving deep into some fantastic material that really cuts right to the chase on this.
Oh, good. What are we looking at?
It's an article from the Pam Shelf by Janet Jane, and it's called Three Techniques to Build Influence Without Authority.
Okay.
And it distills these powerful, really actionable lessons, pulling directly from Dale Carnegie's timeless classic, How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Ah, Carnegie, a classic for a reason.
Exactly. So our mission today, to pull out the absolute must-know ideas so you can quickly get a grip on how to motivate, listen, and really influence the people around you no matter what your role is.
Sounds great. Where do we start?
So once you've kind of set that stage, understanding the importance of connection, where does the journey of influence really begin?
Good question.
Well, our source material points us to a really fundamental starting block, how we actually handle people.
Okay, handling people.
And it begins with a principle that might surprise some people, especially if you've been in those high-pressure situations.
Go on.
It's don't criticize, condemn, or complain.
That one. It sounds simple, but it's hard in practice, isn't it?
It really is. It's striking how this principle just cuts straight to a deep human truth. You might expect some complex tactic,
Mm-hmm.
but the insight here is pretty profound. Criticism, even when it feels completely justified, it tends to trigger this, primal defense mechanism in people.
Yeah, the ego flares up.
Exactly. Our brains are almost hardwired to protect our ego,
Yeah,
making those direct assaults just incredibly counterproductive most of the time.
exactly right. And this isn't about dodging accountability, is it? It's more about shifting from blame
Yeah.
to actual growth. When you create an environment where people feel psychologically safe, they're just far more likely to engage constructively rather than shutting down or getting defensive.
Can you give an example of that?
Sure. Think about a project feature that goes sideways. Instead of someone pointing fingers, you messed that up.
Right, the blame game.
Yeah. You might say, okay, let's understand the hurdles here. What was the biggest challenge we faced, and how can we, collectively navigate this better next time?
Yeah, that feels different.
Or even at home, right? If a chore gets forgotten, instead of, why didn't you do that? Maybe it's, hey, I noticed the trash wasn't taken out. Was there something that got in the way today? It just creates an opening for solutions, not defensiveness.
That makes so much sense. You're absolutely right. And speaking of creating that safe, sort of valuing environment,
Mm-hmm.
our source really emphasizes how crucial honest and sincere appreciation is.
Ah, appreciation, also key.
Yeah, and it's not just about a feel-good moment, right? Sincere appreciation, especially for that invisible labor you sometimes see.
Oh yeah, the stuff that goes unnoticed.
It taps into our fundamental human need for recognition, for belonging. It builds this psychological safety net, encouraging people to take risks and truly commit, knowing their efforts, seen or unseen, are actually valued.
It is such a simple act, isn't it? But its ripple effect on team dynamics, on individual motivation, it's profound. I do wonder, though, what's the most common mistake people make when trying to give appreciation?
Ooh, good question.
Like, how can it go wrong? How do we make sure it lands sincerely? Because sometimes it can feel a bit empty, you know?
That's a great point. And the article really underlines sincere appreciation. It's definitely not about empty platitudes.
Right.
It's more about consistently recognizing specific, maybe even small wins, like acknowledging the long hours the engineering team put in on that tricky bug.
Mm-hmm. Specificity matters.
Yeah, or the clever design solution someone came up with, or maybe that insightful data analysis that shifted the whole strategy. It's highlighting great ideas as they happen.
It's timeline specific.
Exactly. And this builds trust because people see you're genuinely paying attention, you're valuing their actual contributions, and that naturally enhances morale and keeps that positive momentum rolling.
Makes sense. What's the next principle in handling people?
And the final principle in this handling people section is incredibly powerful. Arouse in the other person an eager want.
An eager want. Okay, tell me more. That sounds potentially manipulative.
Haha. Yeah, it could sound that way, but it's really not about manipulation. It's about making your proposal, your idea, almost irresistible by showing the other person how it helps them achieve their goals.
Ah, okay. So linking it to their motivations.
Precisely. Think of it less as convincing someone and more as revealing the hidden alignment between what you want and what they already desire.
What's fascinating there is that it really is about finding that intersection, right, between individual interests and the collective good.
Exactly.
So if you're, say, a product manager pitching a new roadmap, instead of just listing features,
Yeah, just the facts.
you're actually aligning those product objectives with what the business stakeholders need. You show how this roadmap directly supports their broader company outcomes.
So see what's in it for me or what's in it for my goals.
Exactly. Or, in a personal context, maybe you want to organize a big family get-together.
Okay.
Instead of just saying, I want to do this, you might frame it around how it's a chance for, Uncle Bob to show off his amazing new BBQ skills.
Huh. Appeal to Bob's ego.
Or for cousin Sarah to finally get that long overdue catch-up with relatives she's been missing. When they see their own aspirations reflected in your idea, well, you're not just getting buy-in. You're sparking this eager, self-driven desire.
That's a much stronger form of buy-in, isn't it? When they want it to.
Absolutely. It's shared ownership from the start.
Okay, so that covers handling people. Now, let's shift gears into the second big bucket of techniques our source explores,
Right.
which is ways to make people like you.
Okay, the likability factor.
Yeah. And again, this isn't about being disingenuous or, putting on a fake persona.
Right, authenticity matters.
Totally. It's about cultivating authentic connection. And the first one here is foundational. Become genuinely interested in other people.
Genuinely interested, that sounds simple.
It does, but it means demonstrating real curiosity, doesn't it? Truly listening to understand, having meaningful conversations that go beyond just, project deliverables or tasks.
Yeah, asking about their weekend, their interests, not just the work stuff.
Exactly. Understanding cross-functional team members on a more personal level fosters deeper collaboration and trust across design, engineering, analytics, business teams, everyone.
You know, these points, like being interested, they seem so simple on the surface, but they're incredibly powerful in practice.
They really are.
In our, fast-paced digital world, how often do we truly slow down enough to be genuinely interested, to actually smile at someone, to use their name?
Right. It gets lost sometimes.
It does. These are the human anchors, right? The things
Yeah.
that build real rapport and make connections stick. I mean, it's funny. I once had this brilliant manager, a super smart guy, but he'd always forget my name or mix it up. And it's such a small thing, but it subtly chipped away at that feeling of being seen.
Oh, definitely. It sends a message, even if unintended.
It really does. It's amazing how much weight that seemingly small act carries, isn't it?
Absolutely. And our source actually touches on those two things you just mentioned. Smile.
The power of a smile.
Yeah, because a warm, friendly demeanor just sets a positive tone, right? Makes a lasting impression, encourages openness, and also remember and use people's names.
Yes, the name thing.
Like grandmother always used to say, the sweetest sound to anyone's ear is the sound of their own name. Carnegie just put a business spin on it.
She was right.
It signals respect, recognition, attentiveness.
Yeah,
It just builds stronger relationships. It shows you care enough to remember.
it really does.
And this leads right into another crucial point from the source. Be a good listener. Encourage others to talk about themselves.
Listening. So undervalued sometimes.
So true. People truly value being heard and understood. Think about the leaders you found most effective.
Mm-hmm.
They usually listen attentively, don't they? During user interviews, stakeholder meetings, team discussions, they actively resist that urge to just dominate the conversation.
Yeah. They ask questions, they pause.
Exactly. By giving others space to express themselves, they uncover really valuable insights, and at the same time, they're strengthening trust and rapport.
And hand in hand with that, I imagine, is the next point.
It is. Talk in terms of the other person's interests.
Okay, so listening first, then tailoring your message.
Precisely. It means tailoring your communication to align with what truly matters to the listener It makes discussions way more engaging and persuasive for them.
Right. So zooming out a bit, both of these points, listening well and then tailoring your message, they're deeply rooted in empathy, aren't they?
Absolutely, that's the core.
It's about meeting people where they are, trying to understand their world, their perspective, and then communicating in a way that resonates with their priorities, not just your own.
So give me an example. How would that look different for different people?
Well, okay, if you're talking to an executive about a new initiative, you'd probably focus on the strategic value, the ROI, the bottom line, right?
Makes sense.
But for a designer on the same project, you'd likely emphasize the user experience, the creative possibilities, maybe the elegance of the solution.
Got it.
And for engineers, maybe it's more about the technical feasibility, the challenge, the elegance of the code. And, even at home, if you're trying to convince your kids to do their homework.
Huh. The ultimate influence challenge.
Right. You might focus on how it gets them closer to that video game time they want, or how learning this stuff helps them achieve their dream of becoming, I don't know, a scientist or an artist. You connect it to their world.
That's really practical. And to wrap up this section on making people like you,
What's the final piece?
the article says to make the other person feel important and do it sincerely.
Ah, sincerity again. Crucial.
It is. Genuine appreciation and recognition. They don't just feel good momentarily. They foster real loyalty and motivation.
So how do you do that effectively?
Think about consistently acknowledging your team's contributions, maybe through public praise in a meeting, or by spotlighting someone's great work in a company demo, or even just a quick, specific thank you in a group chat or at a family gathering.
So making it visible.
Exactly. This isn't just a nice thing to do. The source argues it builds an environment of respect where people are far more likely to go above and beyond to truly invest themselves in shared goals because they feel seen and valued.
Yeah, that intrinsic motivation kicks in.
Precisely.
Right.
All right, so we've covered handling people, and we've explored how to cultivate those authentic connections that make people, well, like you.
Okay.
Now for the ultimate goal, maybe. Winning people to your way of thinking.
Ah, the influence part. This is where the rubber meets the road.
Exactly. This is where influence truly blossoms. And it starts, interestingly, with a surprisingly counterintuitive piece of advice.
What is it?
Avoid arguments.
Avoid arguments, but don't you sometimes need to argue your point to stand your ground?
That's the instinct, right?
Right.
But the source suggests arguments rarely lead to productive outcomes. They often just harden positions and create resentment.
It does beg the question, though. In a world that often seems to reward winning arguments, why is avoiding them so critical for actual influence?
Good question. What do you think?
Well, I think it's because arguments, just by their nature, tend to create winners and losers, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And that's just not how you build lasting collaboration or foster true commitment. Even if you win the argument on points, you often lose the relationship or at least damage it significantly.
That makes sense. Like in a tricky budget discussion at work.
Or even deciding on weekend plans with friends.
Totally. Instead of digging in your heels and trying to win, the idea is to approach disagreements calmly, constructively, focusing on building alignment rather than proving you're right.
Finding common ground instead of drawing battle lines.
Exactly. And following right on that, the article advises two key things. Show respect for the other person's opinions.
Okay.
Even if you disagree. Especially if you disagree, saying you were wrong right out of the gate. That just instantly shuts down any open dialogue.
Yeah, puts them on the defensive immediately.
Right. It's more about acknowledging differing perspectives, whether it's, say, an engineer raising valid feasibility concerns, or a stakeholder questioning priorities based on their goals. Acknowledge it first.
So validate their viewpoint before presenting yours.
Yes. Seek that common ground to maintain trust and keep everyone focused on the solution, not the fight. And the second part is huge. If you are wrong, admit it quickly and emphatically.
Oof, that takes humility.
It really does. But owning up to mistakes, maybe a feature launch didn't go as planned or you missed a deadline, it shows that humility and it earns tremendous respect in the long run.
And it probably fosters a better culture too, right?
Absolutely. It helps cultivate a culture of learning, accountability, and continuous improvement rather than, a blame game where everyone's covering their backs.
Okay, so avoid arguments, show respect, admit when you're wrong. What else?
Then we have begin in a friendly way.
Seems obvious, but maybe not always practiced.
Exactly. Starting conversations with warmth, maybe a genuine smile, or just a quick personal check-in before diving into business. It can instantly disarm tension.
Yeah, sets a different tone.
Right, even in potentially challenging discussions. It fosters a truly collaborative atmosphere from the get-go. And related to that is another fascinating one. Get the other person saying yes, yes immediately.
The yes set. I've heard of this. How does it work for influence?
Well, it's all about building psychological momentum. You start with small, undeniable points of agreement.
Like what?
Like, we both want this project to succeed, right? Or,
Yeah.
we agree that improving customer satisfaction is important, don't we?
Okay, starting with the common goals.
Yes. Get those initial yeses.
Yeah.
It builds this positive momentum towards broader alignment. By focusing on shared goals or early consensus points first, it becomes much easier to introduce more complex or potentially contentious ideas later.
Because you've already established a foundation of agreement.
Exactly. It feels less confrontational.
You know, what's fascinating here is the subtle psychology at play. Starting friendly, building those initial yeses. It isn't about tricking anyone, is it?
No, not at all.
It's more about creating a positive opening, creating that psychological momentum that makes the subsequent, maybe more challenging discussions feel like a natural progression of shared understanding rather than a confrontation.
Well put. And the next 2 points really go hand in hand, and they highlight the power of listening again.
Okay.
First, let the other person do most of the talking.
Back to listening.
Yep. People really appreciate being heard, and by asking thoughtful questions, open-ended questions, and truly giving them the space to speak.
Without interrupting.
Right. You not only uncover deeper insights, their real concerns or ideas, but you also gain far more authentic buy-in. And the related point is, let the other person feel the idea is theirs.
Ooh, that's a powerful one. How do you do that without being manipulative?
It's about genuine collaboration. Instead of presenting a fully baked idea, you guide the conversation. You ask questions that lead them to the conclusion, or you co-create the idea with them.
So, collaborative problem solving.
Exactly. When people feel ownership, when they feel the idea is partly or wholly theirs, they bring so much more energy, creativity, and commitment to making it happen. They have a personal stake in its success.
Because it is theirs, at least partly. That makes sense.
Our source then highlights 2 more really crucial aspects of empathy in action.
Okay, empathy again. Seems to be a theme.
It really is. The points are, try honestly to see things from the other person's point of view.
Step into their shoes.
Exactly. And be sympathetic to the other person's ideas and desires. Empathy is just essential for influence. Genuinely seeking to understand their concerns, maybe a stakeholder's urgency about a deadline or a developer's pushback on scope creep.
Understanding the why behind their position.
Yes. It helps bridge gaps and make better decisions that actually stick because you've addressed the underlying issues. And being sympathetic, that means acknowledging their feelings first.
Even if you don't agree with the feeling.
Especially then. Acknowledge the designer's passion for a particular user flow or the stakeholder's anxiety about hitting certain metrics. Acknowledge that before you offer alternative viewpoints. It's about choosing empathy over ego.
You know, it really resonates when you lay it out like that. Empathy seems to be the golden thread running through all these more advanced influence techniques, doesn't it?
It really does.
It's that ability to step into someone else's shoes, to truly try and understand their motivations, their perspective, and then respond from that place of genuine understanding. That's what truly unlocks influence, I think. It allows you to build bridges, not walls.
Beautifully put. And finally, the article wraps up this section with some more, maybe inspirational techniques that really tie everything together.
Okay, what are those?
Appeal to nobler motives, dramatize your ideas, and throw down a challenge.
Nobler motives, like appealing to values.
Exactly. People often respond more strongly to purpose things like delivering better user experiences, solving meaningful problems for customers, making a positive social impact.
Bigger than just the task itself.
Right. More than just process or hitting deadlines. Then dramatize your ideas. This is about storytelling.
Making it vivid.
Yeah. Turn that dry data into a compelling story. Instead of just saying, conversion improved by 3%, maybe say, we helped 1,000 more people find the critical information they needed this week, streamlining their daily lives.
Framing the outcome in human terms makes it stick.
Exactly. It rallies support and enthusiasm much more effectively. And lastly, throw down a challenge.
Like a friendly competition or shared goal.
More like a shared ambitious goal. Teens and individuals, too, often thrive on meaningful challenges. Framing something ambitious like, let's work together to reduce our page load time below 1 second as a collaborative challenge. It can spark incredible motivation and creativity. It transforms a potentially daunting task into more of an exciting quest.
A key takeaway from all of that seems to be about how you move beyond just presenting the facts
Right.
to truly inspiring action. And it sounds like it's by tapping into what deeply motivates people, that sense of purpose, the need for connection, and maybe even the thrill of overcoming a shared challenge.
Yeah, you're transforming mere information into genuine inspiration.
Exactly.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? Our deep dive today really hammers home that influence. It isn't some mystic quality.
Definitely not.
It's not some inherited trait or even just a perk that comes with a fancy job title. It's really a set of learnable skills.
Skills rooted in empathy
Communication.
and genuinely valuing other people.
Exactly. And these principles, they're actionable for anyone, in any role, at any time. Maybe think about how consciously applying even just one of these insights could shift your interactions, maybe starting right now.
Yeah, it really begs the question, doesn't it? If these principles of influence are so fundamentally human, how might consciously applying even one of these techniques transform not just your professional interactions, but your personal relationships as well? Think about the potential ripple effect of just showing more genuine curiosity or offering sincere appreciation more often in your daily life.
That's a powerful thought to end on.
And, if you are curious to explore even more examples of how these principles come to life, we'd highly recommend picking up a copy of Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. It stood the test of time for a reason.